Hi, Kira here again, back so soon, right after the previous video on magazines, because I realised I had missed out 3 magazines that I had on the iPad in a different directory, and I also found the latest New Zealand Geographic, or the latest one I have. I believe there's a new issue out next week. So that's New Zealand Geographic, all the good stuff within. Right, now on the iPad, sorry, my little puff from getting up and around. Let me see. Here we go. Now these ones are running in books because they're simple PDF files without an app of their own. So first of all, we have the Spectrum Monitor. Now that is a magazine all about radio amateurs, radio listening, shortwave listening, hardware, software, frequencies. I believe it was put together from the refugees of a couple of older magazines which shut down, and it's become a successful ongoing publication of its own right online. You have to go to the site, and I think it's US $25 for 12 issues per year. It's a pretty good read. I have to admit I do skip some of the amateur radio stuff, which doesn't really interest me. I do have an interest in radio that came down from my father. He was a radio ham, as they call them. But I was more interested in just listening than actually talking to other people on the radio. It's been a lifelong interest to me. Radio still interests me. I see a new radio comes out and drool over it. I think it's my interest in radio shortwave listening kind of has been eclipsed by the internet. It used to be the way to hear things from the outside world, learn new news, different places and what have you. Of course, we now have that, everyone has that online now. Okay, that's the Spectrum Monitor. And let me see, what else do we have here? Flight International. Now this was the biggie for me that got me really into magazine subscriptions on my own. Now it's a magazine I used to, as I think I said in the previous video, I used to find it in the library and I was all over it. It had news from civil and military, aviation, space flight, the frontiers of technology, and it used to have really cool cutaway drawings and photography. Now, it was a magazine that really reached its peak around the 80s and 90s, and it's kind of been a little downhill since then. And last year, I believe, as a result of COVID and what have you, it's easy to blame everything on that now, isn't it? It went from weekly to monthly publications, and as such, they also kind of pivoted their focus away from the general aviation enthusiast type of stuff, and it's more concentrated these days on airliners, the airline business, airline operations and financial side of things, and also publishes a lot of accident reports that tell you what happened and why. There's still a bit of military coverage, but it's kind of narrowed its focus down, and that's not really sitting well with me. I have a little debate whether I'm going to keep renewing this one. It's probably my most expensive subscription, and I'm getting a lot less for it. Well, in theory you're supposed to be getting the news on the website as part of the subscription, but you can probably get that elsewhere. I also used to subscribe to Aviation Week, which was like its nearest American counterpart, and that's gone pretty much the same way. Magazines seem to be aiming themselves to be important resources for the industry these days, and a lot of the stuff that really matters is neat for me to read as a younger person who have kind of gone by the wayside, which is a shame. Okay, that's Flight International, and the only other one I have on here is Locus magazine. Now, I've been a subscriber on and off of Locus for over the last about 10 years, and before that I used to pick it up free from the giveaway bins in bookshops like Scorpio bookshops here in Christchurch. So I used to get months behind ones for free. When you bought a book, you could grab a copy. I've subscribed to the paper edition, and I subscribe to a digital edition, a PDF file you get monthly. They send you an email saying it's ready, so you go download it. On and off over the last 10 years I've been a subscriber, and it's a bit of a interesting format. It's like news and reviews of science fiction and fantasy books mixed with industry goings on and publishing, sci-fi publishing, and the occasional interview with an author. I really wish they'd revamp the format a bit. It's been the same for roughly as long as I've been reading it. Maybe that's the charm that some people like in it, but I think they could do with a revamp. The other thing that annoys me is the article breaking. You read a reviews column and then it suddenly says turn to page 67, and then you have to turn all the way back to read the next article. It's something that happens in a lot of American magazines for some reason. Probably something to do with the advertising placement. Now, the reason I've subscribed again recently is Locus itself is facing financial difficulties, and they were actually trawling for donations, but I thought a subscription gives both parties something that they need. So I read this one monthly. I skim a bit of it because a lot of the author interviews don't really appeal to me. They're usually people I've never heard of or just have no interest in. The reviews are good. There's the publishing news and information probably a little less so, but yeah, it's still worth reading. Gives you a good heads up of what's coming your way in the world of sci-fi and fantasy books. Okay, so that is the second magazine video done. I'm sure I'll be back on the camera if I can find another one. In the meantime, I'm having trouble getting the previous video off the camera, so if you see it one and this one's part 2, you know I've solved a problem here. Okay, have a great day.